Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. If you're in academic life at the moment, if you are working at a university, you might be also feeling this, but it can be very overwhelming with marking at this time of the year. So if you're a university lecturer, if you want to be a uni lecturer, you just need to get comfortable with the idea of marking. And sometimes marking is a quick activity, but at end of semester, when big dissertations coming in, when you've got hundreds of students taking an exam, the marking pile can grow to be quite tall. So I just thought I'd chat a little bit about how I cope with managing my marking workload. I guess for me, marking started when I was a PhD student. So I thought, I'm signing up to do some research project, and actually to earn a bit of money on the side, PhD students can help out in the department. And one of my jobs was to mark undergraduate laboratory notebooks. And it took a bit of time, it took a time to kind of get used to marking them. I remember once I had an experiment and I was working on an experiment in France, and I thought I was going to get out of my marking for that particular week. But my supervisor actually flew out to the experiment I was on with my marking scripts so I could mark them, and then he flew back with them later on in the same week. So yeah, marking can follow you even if you try to escape it. But now, obviously, I'm a university lecturer, and marking is a significant part of my job. I mark small group tutorials, so that's maybe 7 or 8 marking scripts that come in. I mark my master's project work, so they're doing reports and essays. That's maybe like 30 students' of marks coming in. I also then have to mark examinations. In my first year cohort, there's about 80 to 100 students, so that's a lot of exam scripts coming in to be marked. And of course, I'm marking dissertations, I'm marking final year projects. There's a lot of things that need to be marked. And I think as a student, I didn't think about it at all. I did an exam, I handed it in, and I'm pretty sure I never really thought much about the person who was actually going to be marking my piece of work. But I am now the person who's having to mark at least some of these pieces of work. So I have different tactics depending on the type of marking that I'm doing. If I am marking exam scripts, so these are where the students have gone into a formal exam hall, they've sat a paper, and I have the formal university exam answer booklet. So there's a whole system at the university about how these booklets get handled. Each university will do it differently, so your university might have a different way of processing them, but they're always controlled and logged. So all these exam booklets, when they come in, I don't get them immediately. They go through various processes. They are audited and kept records of where they are. And then when it comes for me to mark those exam scripts, those exam booklets, I actually mark them on campus. And I try to get into a bit of a routine. So if I'm having to mark like a high volume, I will mark a few, and then take a break, reward myself. So, chocolate gets eaten when I'm marking exam scripts. So I might have some chocolate, I might go for a walk, I might go to the gym, because I know for me, there's a number of scripts that I can mark, and then I need to take a break before marking the next number. And that ensures that I am fresh when I'm marking. I never want to be marking a student's work when I'm tired, when I'm sleepy, when I'm distracted. The students have put a lot of effort into taking that exam, and I want to make sure that I am marking it with due diligence and all my concentration is focused on, sorting out that exam paper. Now, the marking itself can be quick or it can be quite long. So I'm in physics, and that's quite a numerical, analytical subject. So some questions might be quite quick to mark if they are like getting to a single number, or having a kind of a single obvious answer. But if I've set something that's maybe a derivation, then these can take quite a bit longer to mark. So I have to kind of work my way through each student's attempt at the derivation. Some of them will be perfectly correct. Some students may have taken a different alternative route but got to the correct answer in the derivation, and then I have to validate if that route was an acceptable one based on the science question being posed. Some students won't have got all the way to the end, and I have to work out how far in the derivation they managed to make it. And I need to make sure all of this is being consistent from student to student. And we get given marking schemes. So if it's a module that I've set, and it's an examination paper that I've set, I would have also put alongside it the marking scheme to kind of tell you how many marks and how to break down that script when you're marking it. If I'm marking a piece of work that a colleague has set, I will get their mark scheme and I will be using that as I go through my marking. So that is for my on-campus exam script marking. Obviously, I'm going to get lots of pieces of coursework these days that are coming in virtually. So I'll get, dissertations that might be submitted electronically. I'll have reports, I'll have coursework, and in some cases now I'll have exams that are electronic. And again, it depends a little bit on what I'm marking. So sometimes I'll mark it on the computer. Sometimes I might need to print something out in order to mark it. I know some of my colleagues have got, they handwrite onto their tablets. Some of us type onto our documents. But again, it just takes time. When I am doing my marking, I make sure that I mark a few, then take a break, mark a few again. When I get to the end of my marking set, I do a personal moderation check. So I will look across all of the marks that I've given out and make sure that I am being consistent throughout the whole of the cohort. But marking actually isn't just like a one-person job. So I will mark, and then depending on how much that particular piece of assessment is worth to the student in their module, there will be different rules on then how that marking is checked. So, for some pieces of work, we mark it, and then an independent colleague will come along and mark a small section of them to make sure that all the marks are being followed correctly. Sometimes I'll mark something and another colleague will also be marking the same piece of work, and then we get together to ensure that our marks are in agreement. The marks will be being checked by various people. It's not just internal people at the university that check your marks. There's also external examiners. So these are people from other universities who come in and look at the exam process. They look at how we set the exams. They look at how they align to the module and the objectives of the module. They then look at how we are marking them. And so that's an external person to our university. Marking is really, really involved. And I think if you're new to marking or you have an awful lot of marking arrive at the same time, it can feel really overwhelming, especially if that marking arrives and you're still having to teach or look after research students, or you're trying to get your research grant application written, or you're trying to write up some journal papers. Having that marking on top can feel like an awful lot of work. I tend to keep a record of my marking that's coming in. I'll log the day that I'm expecting to receive the marking. I'll make a note of when that marking needs to be completed by, and then I will actually book time in my diary to do that marking. I won't just leave it as an activity to do in the evening for a couple of hours. I will purposefully choose some times in the day to do my marking. I try to find somewhere quiet where I won't be disturbed. Quite often I will mark first thing in the morning. So I'll get up, have my breakfast, and then just crack on with some marking straight away. But I need to have it scheduled in because it is such a key part of the job. It's not something that I try to squeeze in around other activities. I do prioritise making sure that I have the time to complete my marking. It can be a challenge at times, and sometimes it is an activity that you're just maybe not that looking forward to. The prospect of having to mark 80 examination scripts or even more. Some of my colleagues have got large class sizes. So, depending on which courses you're on, you may have, say, 200 students worth of work coming in. And depending on your subject, I'm lucky that I get a mixture of numeric answers and written answers, like in essays. If you're on a predominantly essay-based course, then you're going to have an awful lot of essays to mark. But yeah, I just think don't feel alone. We are, all of us, I think, must have times where we just think, oh, marking, and I've got to do all of this by a certain date. So don't be overwhelmed by it, and don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're given a marking load and you're just like, there's just no way I'm going to be able to clear this, do flag it with your department. Our department monitors how much marking we each do. They monitor how many pieces of work come in for us and when in the year we're going to have those marking periods. And if you find that your marking is landing at a particular point in the year, which is going to be problematic for you, I'd flag it, because there's always, an option maybe to discuss whether you can actually look to change what marking you do or just juggle your things about a bit differently to allow you a bit more breathing space. But yeah, good luck if you're doing marking right now. I have uploaded a load of marks, which I'm just about to go and double check. But yeah, have a good week with it. The exam season is now pretty much over for the students, so once we clear this marking out the way, we'll then be into the fun period of graduation. And I can't wait to share graduation with you this year. But have an awesome week. Stay safe, like, subscribe, leave me a comment. The comments are lovely, so thank you so much. I do really enjoy reading them, so please leave me a comment, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye.